Jonas Reed had walked this trail so many times that his boots knew it better than his mind. The dry earth cracked under his weight as the morning sun crept over the hills. He was checking his traps, the same quiet routine he had followed for years, when a sound cut through the stillness. It was not the cry of an animal in rage. It was weaker than that. A broken, choking moan, thin and desperate, like something already half gone from this world. Jonas stopped cold. His hand tightened at his side as he listened again. The sound came once more, closer now, and it pulled him forward whether he wanted it to or not. Pushing through the dry brush, Jonas saw iron where it should not have been. A rusted trap lay snapped shut, and inside it was not a wolf or a coyote. It was a woman, an Apache woman. She was tall and powerfully built, but her strength had been broken by pain. Her lower leg was crushed in the steel jaws, blood darkening. The dirt beneath her, her sun-darkened skin, was smeared with dust and sweat. Long black hair clung to her face as she struggled to breathe. When she looked up at Jonas, her deep black eyes held fear so sharp it cut straight through him. She lifted a trembling hand, as if unsure whether to beg or defend herself. Her voice came out rough and broken. She asked him to help her, but then the words rushed out fast, filled with terror. She begged him not to violate her, not to carry her to a bed. She said it was forbidden for someone like her, a woman cast out, unwanted, already marked by shame. Her chest rose and fell fast as she waited for his answer, ready for the worst. For a long moment, Jonas did not move. The world seemed to hold its breath with him. He had lived alone for many years, far from towns and men, far from trouble. Now trouble lay bleeding at his feet. Slowly he knelt and reached for the trap. His hands were rough, scarred by work and weather. With a sharp click, the iron jaws sprang open. The woman cried out and collapsed forward, gasping as if air itself had returned to her body. Jonas did not speak. He lifted her carefully, her weight heavy and shaking in his arms, and turned toward his cabin at the foot of the mountain. She went still, watching him with wide eyes, every muscle tense as if ready to fight or flee. The cabin came into view, old and weathered, a place Jonas had shared with no one but silence. Inside, the fire was already burning low. He laid her on the rough bed and wrapped her injured leg in clean cloth. Blood still seeped through, but the bleeding had slowed. Her name, she said later, was Tianita. She watched him closely, her eyes never leaving his movements. Each time he stepped near, her body flinched like a cornered animal. Jonas kept his distance. He set a bowl of water beside her, placed a few pieces of dry bread within reach, then turned away. He said nothing, giving her the choice to take what she needed or nothing at all. That silence filled the cabin, thick and tight. Jonas had known silence all his life, but this one felt different. It pressed against his chest. That night, the wind howled against the wooden walls. Jonas sat by the fire, staring into the flames without seeing them. Behind him, he heard movement. Tianita struggled to sit up, reaching for the bread. Her hands shook, but she ate like someone who had known hunger too well. Jonas did not turn around. He only nodded once, as if to himself. When the sun rose, Jonas went about his work as usual. He fed the cattle, hauled water, moved through the cabin with quiet purpose. Tianita watched him from the bed, her eyes filled with both caution and curiosity. He did not bark orders. He did not lock doors. He let her exist in the space as she wished, and that confused her more than cruelty ever had. By evening, her strength pushed her to try standing. She fumbled with the stove, smoke stinging her eyes. When Jonas returned with firewood, she spun around, her gaze sharp with challenge. She told him she did not need him. Jonas stepped forward calmly, adjusted the fire with practiced ease, and walked away without a word. She stood there, stunned, unsure what to make of a man who did not need to prove power over her. That night, fear and caution lived beside something new. Trust, small and fragile, took its first breath. Jonas slept on a bench, staring at the ceiling, listening to her uneven breathing behind him. For the first time in years, the cabin was no longer empty. The days that followed brought a slow change. Tianita began to move around despite the pain. She watched Jonas work, hauling water, sawing wood, feeding animals with steady calm. She tried to help in small ways, filling a pot with water, stacking wood clumsily but with care. Jonas noticed. He said nothing. A simple nod passed between them, heavy with meaning. On the third day, she tried to lift an axe. The blade flew wide, nearly hitting her foot. Jonas rushed forward and caught it. Their eyes locked, tension thick and raw. He told her quietly not to push herself before healing. Pride burned in her gaze, but that evening the firewood was stacked neater than before. The silence between them softened. Meals were shared without words. Once, Jonas slid an extra piece of meat onto her plate. She looked up in surprise, then away, hiding something close to a smile. Another time, when the wind blew the window open, she held it shut until Jonas returned. He handed her a dry cloth for her sweat. This time, she did not pull away. Little by little, the distance shrank. Two broken lives moved closer without daring to name it. And though neither of them said it out loud, both felt it. Something had begun. Something fragile. Something that could still be taken away. The rhythm of the cabin changed as the days passed. What once felt like a place frozen in time now moved with quiet life. Morning light slipped through the cracks in the wooden walls, warming the rough floor. Tianita no longer stayed in the bed. All day she moved slowly, favoring her injured leg, but her back stayed straight and proud. Pain lived in her body, yet she refused to let it define her. Jonas watched without staring. He noticed everything. The way she studied the land through the window, the way her jaw tightened when the pain flared, the way she never complained. He respected that silence because it was one he understood well. One rainy night, the sound of water drumming against the roof filled the cabin. The fire glowed soft and orange, lighting old bullet scars in the walls. Jonas sat near the window, a worn banjo resting at his feet. He did not play it. He only looked at it, as if remembering another life. Across the room, Tianita lay awake, her dark eyes fixed on the ceiling. The storm stirred old wounds in both of them. Jonas spoke first. His voice was low, rough, like it had not been used for stories in a long time. He said he once had a wife, a family, a child that never came into the world. A sickness had taken them one winter, fast and cruel. When he finished, he did not look at her. His hand trembled slightly as he stared into the fire. The silence that followed was heavy, but not sharp. Then Tianita turned toward him. Firelight softened her strong face. Her voice broke as she spoke. She told him her people had called her a curse. Years passed and she could not bear a child. Her husband left her. Her own blood turned away. She was cast out, marked as something broken. Her shoulders trembled as years of pride cracked open. Jonas did not move closer. He did not offer words of comfort. He simply listened. That was enough. Two souls, different paths, the same loss. Sat apart, yet closer than they had ever been to anyone else. After that night, something shifted. Jonas placed his coat over her shoulders when the cold crept in. She did not argue. At meals, he always made sure her plate was fuller. When she carried water, he walked behind her, steadying the rope without a word. Small acts replaced fear. Quiet care replaced distance. One evening, they sat on the porch as the sun sank into the prairie. Jonas poured her a small glass of corn whiskey. She hesitated, then drank. The burn made her lips tremble. Their eyes met and held. This time, Jonas reached out and touched her hand. She did not pull away. When he leaned in and kissed her, it was slow, careful, like touching something sacred. She leaned into him, strong arms wrapping around a man who had forgotten what it felt like to be held. But peace never lasts long in places. Ruled by fear, rumors spread through the nearest town. Whispers of an Apache woman hiding at Jonas Reed's ranch. Some saw money, others saw power. One man saw opportunity. His name was Clay Murdoch, a bounty hunter with eyes like cold metal and a heart shaped by profit. He accepted the job without hesitation. Late one afternoon, the sound of hooves cut through the calm. Jonas stood by the stable, the sun red behind him. He heard the clink of metal, slow and deliberate. His hand moved to the rifle at his side. Tianita stepped onto the porch, her face lifted, eyes burning with understanding. Danger had found them. Clay Murdoch reined in his horse at the gate. He spoke like the ending was already decided. He said the Apache woman was worth something. He offered Jonas a chance to walk away. Jonas stood tall, voice flat and steady. He told him she was not a thing to be traded. Clay smirked and waved a crumpled warrant. He said Jonas was standing against the law. The wind carried dust between them. Darkness crept across the sky. Jonas gave Tianita a small nod to go inside. She did not move. She gripped a small axe, her body tense and ready. Jonas spoke low, meant only for her. He told her no matter what happened, he would not let them take her. Clay's hand tightened around his gun. The air felt ready to break. Night fell fast. More riders appeared. Torches burned bright. 3 bounty hunters surrounded the cabin, voices thick with threat. Jonas raised his rifle, calm and deadly. One step closer, he warned, and blood would fall. Then a sound rolled through the valley, a low horn. Shadows emerged from the dark, riders cloaked in hides. Spears and bows caught. The firelight, Apache warriors closed in silently. Arrows flew, pinning torches to the ground. Flames died. The prairie went dark. An elder rode forward and spoke judgment. The bounty hunters were disarmed, bound, and dragged away. Tianita stepped out onto the porch, her face lit by fire and moonlight. The warriors bowed their heads. The elder admitted. "They're wrong," he said. She was still of their blood. Her choice now was her own. Tears filled her eyes. She reached for Jonas's hand, held it firm. The night ended without blood, but nothing would ever be the same. Morning came slowly over the prairie, pale light rolling across the land like a promise kept. Mist clung to the grass, and the sound of horses filled the air around the cabin. Apache men and women moved quietly, their presence calm, protective. The tribe had stayed through the night, not as hunters or judges, but as family returning to what they had broken. Jonas sat on the porch steps with a cup of coffee, warming his hands. His rifle rested beside him, unused now. For years, this porch had only known his footsteps and his silence. Today, it felt different, alive. Behind him, the cabin door opened softly. Tianita stepped outside, her long black hair loose over her shoulders, the morning light catching her sun-darkened skin. There was something new in her eyes. Peace. She sat beside Jonas without asking. Her strong hand rested on his, natural and sure. For a man who had lost everything, that simple touch meant more than words ever could. The Apache elder approached them. His face was lined with age and regret. He bowed his head first to Tianita, then to Jonas. He spoke openly, without pride. He said the tribe had failed her. Fear and old beliefs had blinded them. They had cast out their own daughter when she needed them most. He said Jonas had shown them something stronger than fear: compassion, choice, love. From that day on, he said the tribe's doors would always be open to both of them. Jonas answered with a quiet nod. He had never been a man of speeches. What mattered was that Tianita was no longer alone. And neither was he. As the tribe prepared to leave, Tianita stood watching, her face unreadable. When the last rider turned away, she reached for Jonas again. Her voice was low, almost afraid of the words. She told him she thought she was with child. The world seemed to stop. Jonas froze, his breath caught in his chest. Slowly, as if the moment might shatter, his hand moved to her belly. His fingers trembled. For a man who had buried his past and locked away hope, this felt unreal. Then a smile spread across his face, one born not of joy alone, but of healing. In his eyes lived a light that had been gone for many years. The days that followed were filled with quiet work and shared dreams. Jonas began adding a small room to the cabin, measuring and hammering with care. Sometimes he paused, imagining the sound of small feet running across the porch. Tianita sat by the window, sewing tiny shirts from scraps of cloth, her hands steady, her face soft with wonder. Winter loosened its grip, though the nights stayed cold. In the evenings, they sat together watching the prairie turn red under the setting sun. Jonas wrapped an arm around her shoulders. Her hand rested over her growing belly, protecting a life born from pain and mercy. The wind carried the smell of dry grass and wood smoke. Jonas spoke softly, not to the land, but to her. He said maybe they had lost their way so they could find each other. Tianita leaned into him and closed her eyes. The world outside was still harsh, still dangerous. But inside that small cabin, there was home. The land that once held only dust and loneliness now carried something rare: forgiveness, love, a future. Two broken souls had chosen each other, and in doing so, healed more than just themselves. Out on the prairie, a new story had taken root. One born from fear, shaped by kindness, and strengthened by choice. A story of a rancher who stood against the world, and an Apache woman who found her worth not in the past, but in love. In life's long desert, love is the rare water that keeps the soul alive. It does not erase every scar, but it gives strength to keep walking. A man may survive on steel and fire, but he truly lives when he has a hand to hold and a place to return to. And there, at the edge of the wild, beneath an endless sky, Jonas Reed and Tianita built a family from the ashes of everything they had lost.